lined my demo up to the grid, and then I've also gone in and made a few edits, just kind of shortened a couple areas that were just a little too long, got a little boring. I also have a bunch of markers laid out just to kind of give me a nice visual of the entire song and its arrangement. I also have a bunch of markers, and when I place those markers, I place them while in grid mode so that they are completely locked to the grid. And that made it really nice for playback. If I click Window and go down to Memory Locations, or Command 5, or the 5 being on the numpad, I can click on each individual marker to get a location for those for playback. But also, each one has a number associated with it. The intro has number 1 associated with it. That was the first marker I made. First one has number 2, and so on and so forth. If I hit period and then one of the numbers and then period again, it will go to that location. Period 2 period goes to verse 2, goes to verse 1. Period 8 period, that goes to the instrumentation or instrument continued. So it's just a really nice way to navigate. It becomes especially useful when you want to stay in the mix window, which I try to do only if I'm mixing. Otherwise, I'm primarily in the edit window, just for workflow's sake. So what I'm going to do now is start to program the drums. I'm going to be using Addictive Drummer with a really fun kit that kind of matches the vibe of the song. And my intention is to fully map out the song and then have some very usable drums by the end of this. I'm going to try and make these just sound as live as possible. So now I'm just going to use my MIDI controller to perform some drums, and then I can make additional performances on top of that, or I can just edit the MIDI. That's the beauty of MIDI. Let's get started. So for this, I'll just focus on the first instrumental going into the verse. Here we go. I'm making sure that I'm on grid mode and that I have my grid set to 1 bar, just making it nice and easy so that wherever I click, I'm always clicking on beat 1 of a bar as opposed to clicking on a beat that's in the middle of a bar. All right. I have my track record enabled. Now I hit 3 on the numpad. Okay, that was all right. Clearly some mistakes in there, and that's all right. We're doing this with MIDI. So now what I can do is let's just go ahead and open it up, take a quick peek at what's inside. I know that I like the majority of this, and I know I'm going to quantize it as well. I was definitely off in my performance in some places. So now what I'm going to do is I want to do a nice little floor tom, or maybe one of the rack toms right here going into this next section, followed by a crash. So I'm going to make sure that I have MIDI merge on right here. If I have this off, then as I record, it's going to record over it destructively. But if I keep that on, it allows me to essentially overdub a MIDI performance on top of this. So I'll do it right now. Clearly, I made a couple little tests in there, so we can just use our grabber tool, double click on the clip, and then delete those. But now we have this nice performance right here. We can fix that right away because that's a little bothersome, so we'll go here. One more time for playback. That's great. I could also make additional edits by opening it up, and if I'm on my grabber tool or a smart tool, I can essentially double click and create notes anywhere I want. Use my trim tool. If I am on my smart tool or my grabber tool, if I hold command and hover over one of the notes, I can change the velocity. That helps me humanize it a little bit more. And you'll notice that my performance still is off. We can quantize this. And one thing I might do before I quantize, depending on what I'm trying to achieve, is I might just want to hear what it sounds like without actually moving the notes. enjoy having there be some variability in the performance. I don't want it to be perfect. But if I just want to test it out real quick, I can use real-time properties. I'll go ahead and quantize that to an eighth note with about 20% swing. That wasn't bad, but it was very perfect. And that's not what I'm going for. So I'm not going to use that method. What I'm going to do instead, I'll go ahead and open it up, is I might just want to quantize everything just to varying degrees. For example, if I grab all the kick and snares, and then if I hit Option 0, brings up the quantize menu, I'm going to quantize with swing at 20, but I'm going to offset the strength to 90 instead of being at 100. So it's going to leave some of my little varying mistakes in there in regards to time so that I retain some sort of human performance. And before I even do any of that though, I should probably make a duplicate of this playlist so that I don't have to worry about destructively editing anything when I want to retain some sort of human element there. So I'll just duplicate the playlist. And now I can make changes to it without with having a safety net behind the scenes. So let's go ahead and do that. Quantize to just the kick and the snare. Just to the kick and the snare. Okay, now for this hi-hat, let's do the same thing with the hi-hat, but I want to have less strength. I want there to be more variability there. Perhaps with these rack toms and floor tom right here as well. I like the idea of my crash being a little offset, so I'm going to make it just be a little bit early. Let's go ahead and hear that now. So I'll go ahead and do this for the rest of the song. I'm trying to just make sure that I have some sort of human element in there, which is difficult if you don't have a live room to record drums in. But Addictive Drums in this case does a really good job with it. It sounds really good and it sounds very human if you do the right edits to it with MIDI and you're not too aggressive with quantizing. Perhaps I could do some sort of cymbal swell. So I'll do that right here, right before the instrumental. I guess the easy way to do this would be to play it on the controller, but here's a way we can do it just in the box. So if I were to just create a new MIDI clip, and with that clip, maybe copy and paste it a couple times, we'll keep it small and I'll make my grid be on 16th notes. And then I can option drag that over and over. Just being quick and easy with it. And now I have all these velocities down here. Of course, let's go ahead and... There's a good crash right there. So now I have all these velocities. So a nice and easy way to do it is also from this window. I can change them by going to the velocity view. So then when I'm viewing the velocity this way, I can just use the pencil tool. And oh, we forgot that one right there. Maybe we'll move these up a little bit at the beginning. Kind of give it some more human swell. Don't want it to be too linear. Let's hear what that sounds like. Seems like my velocities weren't hitting quite hard enough, so let's highlight all of them. Now if I want, I accidentally scrolled down, but if you hold Control, Option, Command, and then use Scroll, it allows you to scroll in the velocity window. It allows you to scroll while in the velocity view. Let's try that. That worked out pretty well. So I'll go ahead and use that in appropriate places within the song as well. I feel it's worth mentioning that I'm not going to be copy and pasting any of the drum performances throughout the entire song. I don't want to invite any sort of electronic feeling. I don't want there to be a sense that I did copy and paste. I want it to be perhaps a little bit more raw. I want it to feel a little more acoustic. And the second you start copy and pasting performances, you can start to travel down the road of accidentally making it a little too uniform or making it perhaps a little too electronic. So I'm not going to be doing that. I'll spend a little bit more time actually performing the drums on my MIDI controller and then making adjustments throughout the entire song just to give it a more natural feel. Thanks for watching. Now I'm going to go through and do the rest of the song by doing a little performance and then making edits after the fact.